Hello and welcome to today a facts and dates video about royalty, and today we are going to be talking about Queen Adelaide, who was born in Germany, and her full name was Adelaide Louise Theresa Caroline Amelia of Saxe-Meiningen. And she came from a place called Meiningen, hence the name, which is sort of southern central part of Germany at that time. She was actually born 13th of August 1792. Her parents were the ruling Duke and Duchess of that region in Germany at that point, and very much like any princess in a royal German duchy at the time, she had a reasonable education. Her parents wanted her to obviously know all the important things like reading, mathematics, sewing, a bit of music, how to play instruments, things like that. Things that would be beneficial for her when she becomes a wife and a mother. But, so like I say, she basically ruled along throughout her life, not expecting any great success for herself or anything like that, until over in England, of course, in 1816, when King George III's only legitimate living grandchild, Princess Charlotte of Wales, dies, and there's a big mad rush for all of the unmarried sons of George III to marry and have legitimate children. A number of them, of course, did have a number of illegitimate children, but of course because they are illegitimate, they are unable to inherit the throne. And her husband-to-be was, of course, Prince William of Clarence, Duke of Clarence, who becomes William IV, and they meet in a Bond Street hotel 1 week before the marriage. This is the first time they ever meet. Before this, they've been either communicating via letters or envoys within the two royal courts, and they get married in a joint wedding with William's younger brother, Prince Edward. And they have quite a... After they get married, they move over to the secondary title that the King of England holds, which is the King of Hanover, which is, of course, the region in Germany. And George had sent his son William over there previously in his life anyway, to be in the army, and William decided to go back over there because the price of life, not only but living in, I mean the price of accommodation, the price of food, the price of generally everything over in Germany at that point was a lot cheaper than it was over here in England. So they moved over there, and of course William would obviously occasionally come back over here to see his family, his illegitimate children, and all things like that. And at some points, of course, the illegitimate children would come over to their house over in Germany. At this point, William and Adelaide have attempted to have a number of children. Unfortunately, none of these children either stillbirths or died once born. There's two notable ones, Princess Charlotte of Clarence and Princess Elizabeth of Clarence. The only reason these two are very well known is because they are the only two that have ever really been given names. There has been talk that whilst in Hanover they had two miscarriages, and then you had the two that I've mentioned over in England, and then there was twin boys that were born stillbirths as well. So Adelaide was not. She was upset that she could not give her husband the heir that he would need to carry on the family, which would have to have, of course, been done by another of his brothers. So, but she was very kind to her husband's illegitimate children, particularly the sons. There was an awful lot of affection poured upon them, even though they weren't hers. But there was never any discussion or anything about her saying, "You can't see them. You're with me now. You can't have anything to do with the children," because, well, say children, most of them were teenagers at this point, but a lot of them were obviously making names for themselves within the court. Then, of course, William's brother George IV dies in 1830, which brings William to become King of England, and Adelaide becoming his Queen Consort. And of course this obviously changes a lot. Instead of being the heirs to the throne, they are, and having some kind of personal lives that they could have. Everything was on show all the time, which she didn't enjoy. Adeline was a particularly private individual, and she liked the quiet and the calm of her life beforehand. And she tried her best, and she accompanied her husband on many visits that he had to do throughout his time as king. And of course, the reign lasted 7 years. But after her husband's death, of course, no longer the Queen of England, but she still held the title of Queen. And one of the first things that her husband ever did for her was give her a job outside of being Queen, and this was as basically a guardian, a governor of a particular park, which there would be a accommodation connected to that position. So if anything did ever happen to her or him, that she would always have accommodation to go to, which no one could ever throw her out of, because he himself was very aware of the fact that once he died, she wouldn't have his protection. And even if the next sovereign, who of course was going to be Queen Victoria, may not look favourably on her aunt. But once her husband had died, she moved around an awful lot. She took up residence in a number of very successful British peers' country houses and townhouses, and of course she would go over to Germany occasionally to see family over there, but it was very much, she very rarely lived in, after her husband's death, she very rarely lived in any royal palaces. It was mainly, you know, the landed basically the dukes or earls or barons, their accommodations that they would willingly give the former Queen of England. Of course, then, 12 years after her husband's death, she herself dies, the 2nd of December 1849, in Middlesex. And, of course, after her death, she has a funeral which all members of the royal family attend, but she herself had previously written down her request for her funeral not to be a lavish affair. I hope you found this video interesting, and I shall see you next time. Goodbye.